What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT. For the past 3 days, I've been having me a NFL preseason marathon. I've been binge watching the preseason for 3 days straight. I watched all of the Friday and the Saturday games. I just got done watching the Saints and the Jaguars, which I'm very upset with the Jaguars right now, man. They blew my 4-leg parlay. They were the only team that I had left that I needed to cover. I had them -1.5. And at one point, everything was looking great for me. The Jaguars were up 17-3 midway through the third quarter. Then all of a sudden, I look up 15 minutes later, and Spencer Rattler ends up ending the game in a tie, which is more disgraceful in itself. I don't care if it's a preseason game, a training camp scrimmage. No football game should ever end in a tie. Nobody should be walking off that gridiron until a winner and a loser is declared. And not just in football, this goes for any sport. Baseball, hockey, basketball, no competitive sport, at least any sport that claims that they are a competitive sport, should ever end up in a tie, man. And this is why nobody takes the preseason seriously. This is why you hear it often said that the preseason is not real football. And although I do disagree with that, with this Jaguars Saints game ending in the tie, I'll let it slide for the day, man, because that was BS. We shouldn't be having no ties. I don't care if it is the preseason. Let those guys who are fighting for their dreams, fighting to make an NFL roster, get a few more minutes to play, so we can decide who walks out as a winner and a loser. But I didn't come on here this episode to yap about my gripes with the preseason. We can save that for another episode. I want to discuss some of my biggest takeaways from week 2 of the preseason. But before we get into any more preseason talk, we got to discuss the biggest news of the day. The Bengals have put Trey Hendrickson on the trade block, and the market for him is really hot right now. The Panthers, the Colts, and shockingly, even the Browns are all interested in acquiring the Bengals' star pass rusher. The Bengals have botched this situation so badly. First of all, if you were going to trade Trey Hendrickson, you should have done it months ago. You should have either done it during the combine, before the draft, during the draft, or a few days after the draft. Now the season is 2-3 weeks away, and you want to get rid of the best player on your defense? The Bengals have no margin for error on offense this year. If you thought Joe Burrow had to be Mr. Perfect last season, he has to be Mr. Flawless this season. He has to throw 50 touchdowns and no interceptions for the Bengals to have a shot at making it to the playoffs this year. Your defense got worse this offseason. The Bengals already got rid of their leading tackler, Jermaine Pratt, by releasing him not too long ago. They lose Sam Hubbard to retirement. Now they're about to take another blow on defense by getting rid of their only elite player. If you take Trey Hendrickson 17.5 sacks off of the Bengals sack total last year, they would have been dead last in the NFL in sacks. Not only have they mishandled trading Trey Hendrickson, but they also have mishandled his contract negotiations. You have $28 million available in salary cap, Cincinnati, and you mean to tell me you don't have enough money to get a deal done with the only good player on your defense? Trey Hendrickson isn't worth $35 million per season, coming off 2 back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. The Bengals are not a serious organization. Joe Burrow forced them to keep both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins because he knows that the front office is blind when it comes to drafting. They're blind when it comes to being able to assemble a championship-level defense. That's why he told them, make sure that you bring back both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. because I'm not going to have a defense to rely on. I'm not going to have a good offensive line. If you're not going to give me a good offensive line, a good head coach, or a good defense, the least that you can do to help me out is give me my two best weapons. The Bengals had no choice but to give in to Joe Burrow's commands. Look how atrocious the defense is. And what makes me laugh is the narrative that Al Golden is going to be able to fix this defense. Lou Anarumo a few years ago was a finalist for several head coaching jobs. You just don't become a bad defensive coordinator overnight unless you have terrible personnel to work with, which is what the Bengals gave Lou Anarumo the past 2 years when they decided not to retain Jesse Bates. They let Von Bell walk. All of the good players that the Bengals had drafted, they decided not to re-sign. But for some odd reason, though, despite having one of the youngest defenses in the NFL, one of the cheapest defenses in the NFL, the Bengals aren't good on this side of the ball. Why? Because they have whiffed badly in the draft. Shamar Stewart doesn't look good. The defensive lineman that you took from Clemson 2 years ago, he hasn't started in a single game, and he's been with the franchise for going on 3 seasons now. Nobody that the Bengals draft ever ends up being good. So it's shocking that they think it's a smart decision to get rid of Trey Hendrickson, not pay him what he deserves to get paid, when they really have no other way to win this year but retaining him. Literally, that is the entirety of your defense at this point. You don't have no proven pass rushers on your team. Your cornerback position is a huge question mark. What else are the Bengals going to do to get stops on defense if they don't have Trey Hendrickson? The idea of the Bengals even entertaining trading away Trey Hendrickson shows you the stupidity of this organization. When you have a guy that's put up back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons, you don't let them walk because you're concerned about age. Age is just a number for somebody like Trey Hendrickson. You can still be an elite player at 34 years old. The NFL is a production-based business. You should be paying players based off what they have done for you lately, what they are now, and not what they could be. You don't worry about Trey Hendrickson possibly falling off when every single year your objective is to give Joe Burrow the best team possible to win. When you have a championship-level quarterback like Joe, then you make sure you go all in on trying to put the best team on the field possible every single season. Congratulations to Mr. Flawless getting Jamar Chase and T. Higgins paid, because those are the only two guys he's going to be able to rely on this year. If the Bengals are not on the field for the final 2 minutes with the opportunity to win the game, they are going to lose every single time that situation doesn't come up. Because if you put this defense on the field and you tell them to win us the game, go get us a stop, they're going to be unable to do it. If you don't want the starting quarterback of your favorite team to play like Anthony Richardson, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Check us out, JT Sports, on all podcasting platforms. Give us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Let's get back to the video. We got our first look at Dillon Gabriel in the NFL. And let's just call a spade a spade. The Browns are lying to us about this quarterback battle. Shedeur Sanders is miles better than Dillon Gabriel and all of the other quarterbacks in that quarterback room. They are using Dillon Gabriel to justify their bad decision-making in the NFL draft. Dillon Gabriel doesn't have what it takes to be a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. He has a weak arm. He's not a good athlete. And his unofficial NFL debut the other day, I was not impressed. I didn't see Dillon Gabriel throw a single pass more than 10, 15 yards downfield. He was doing nothing but dinking and dunking his way down the field. That's not impressive. Shedeur Sanders was doing more than just dinking and dumping. Shedeur is actually taking shots downfield. He was actually throwing passes in the tight windows. What the Browns are trying to do is convince themselves and the rest of the organization that Dillon Gabriel was the right pick over Shedeur Sanders. They rather use politics to decide who leads their team this year rather than doing what all good organizations do and start the best player. And what the Browns currently are doing with Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel is easily going to divide the locker room because players don't respect politics. Players hate when a guy is on the bench that should be starting is not, because the guy ahead of him is only in because where he was drafted, how much money he's getting paid. Players see through all of this. Players see the truth about Shedeur Sanders versus Dillon Gabriel. Every starter on the Browns roster is interacting more with Shedeur than what they do any other quarterback on the team right now. Myles Garrett, David Njoku, several starting offensive linemen for the Browns always are around Shedeur Sanders, are always making jokes with Shedeur. You can tell that Shedeur Sanders has been picked by the Browns locker room as this team's QB1. But the coaches are blind and they're picking Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dillon Gabriel all over Shedeur Sanders for the sake of trying to prove that their decisions were right. Their decisions were justified. Shedeur's still in the doghouse, not because he isn't capable enough to be the Browns starting quarterback, but because the Browns rather ruined the blessing that they got handed to them and the franchise quarterback, something that they haven't had in over 2 decades, and they rather say, yeah, let's try to pump up our ego. Let's try to prove to everybody that Dillon Gabriel has the ability to be something that he's not, and that's a franchise quarterback in the NFL. Dillon Gabriel, I was high on him when he was coming out of the draft. When it came to him being a 5th-round selection, high-quality backup, maybe he turns into a low-end starting quarterback, but I never envisioned Dillon Gabriel getting drafted over Shedeur Sanders, nor becoming a feasible long-term solution at quarterback for any team. I thought his best fits would have been with the 49ers or with the Dolphins as Tua's backup, because that's how he plays. He plays like a Diet Coke version of Tua Tagovailoa. The Browns play a third of their season in cold weather. When you are playing in a lot of cold weather games, you need a quarterback that has above average arm strength. You need a quarterback that has the ability to fit throws in the tight windows against tight man-to-man coverage. Dillon Gabriel doesn't have the ability to do that. The further he tries to throw the ball, the less control he has over the ball. The Browns are playing politics, and Shedeur Sanders can't win against them. Politics are always going to be undefeated when it comes to professional sports, because that's what bad organizations do. They rather pick the guy that they drafted higher rather than start the guy who they stole because he fell further in the draft than what he actually should have had. And Shedeur Sanders is being the black sheep of the Browns organization. The owner didn't want him. Apparently, Kevin Stefanski and their general manager, Andrew Berry, didn't want him. So I guess the Browns only drafted Shedeur Sanders for engagement, because that seems to be the only way they tend to use him. Just to post him on their social media page for a bunch of likes and comments, to get a lot of start Shedeur comments, just to ignore him and go ahead and put a guy in Dillon Gabriel above him on the depth chart, even though Dillon Gabriel is not better than Shedeur Sanders. Kenny Pickett isn't better than Shedeur Sanders neither. They are hoping that Kenny Pickett could end up having a Sam Darnold redemption arc. Kenny Pickett is nothing close to Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a better athlete, a better thrower of the ball. He has better physical traits than what Kenny Pickett has. Kenny Pickett is a bona fide backup quarterback. That's just what he is. If your team has to start Kenny Pickett for more than 2-3 games, your season is over. Shedeur, at the bare least, should be the Browns' backup quarterback and in pole position to replace Joe Flacco when the Browns season ends up hitting the fan. It's inexcusable how Dillon Gabriel can throw 2 interceptions and Kevin Stefanski make excuses for him. Well, not all those were on Dillon Gabriel. Not all interceptions are the same. But let Shedeur Sanders go out there and throw 2 interceptions, though. The talk would have been, oh, he's trash. Oh, he doesn't hold on to the football. Oh, yes, bad decision-making. The Browns make all the excuses in the world for Dillon Gabriel, but they make all of the excuses against Shedeur Sanders, getting more reps in practice, getting placed higher on the depth chart, despite outperforming both Kenny Pickett and Dillon Gabriel throughout OTAs, minicamp, and 3 weeks into training camp. You look at that Browns quarterback tracker, Shedeur Sanders has been the most efficient quarterback throughout this offseason for the Cleveland Browns. And instead of relying on the numbers, relying on the film, the Browns are relying on politics to decide the outcome of their quarterback battle. Dillon Gabriel, what I saw from him against the Philadelphia Eagles, did not tell me this is a long-term starter in the NFL. You can't dink and dunk your way downfield. You got to be able to take shots downfield. You got to be able to make big boy throws 40, 50 yards downfield. You got to be able to put the ball on the rope. And Dillon Gabriel can't do that. I'm not a Dillon Gabriel hater. I'm a truther. And the truth of the matter is that Shedeur Sanders should be a lot higher on the Browns depth chart. He should be getting way more opportunities than what Dillon Gabriel and those ahead of him have been afforded. The Joe Milton experiment is going horribly wrong for the Cowboys. He has shown throughout his first 2 preseason games that he's all arm and nothing else. You got a better chance getting a Joe Milton completion, throwing a Hail Mary, than you do anything else. The Cowboys are better off just calling Hail Marys, 4 verts, all game with Joe Milton in that quarterback than they are running any other concept. Because either he's going to throw a 70-yard dime to a receiver, or he's going to overthrow a receiver by 80 or 100 yards. He just might throw the football out of the stadium. Joe Milton has the strongest arm in the history of the NFL. There is no denying that. But other than arm strength and good athleticism, what else does Joe Milton have to offer any franchise? Joe Milton is not Dak Prescott's future replacement, and he's not the future quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And he isn't even the future quarterback of any other NFL franchise. He had a good performance in the final game of the regular season for the Patriots last year against the Bills, backups and third strings. If he was going up against the Bills' actual starting defense, then everybody would have already realized what we currently are seeing now unfold in the preseason, that Joe Milton is not an NFL level quarterback. You don't view a guy that's in his near late 20s as a developmental project. At this point, you have to accept that Joe Milton is what he is. He's going to give you a lot of splash plays when he hits 3-4 deep balls out of 21 pass attempts, and he's just going to be inaccurate when it comes to throwing passes with accuracy in the short intermediate areas of the field. That is not NFL level quarterback play. If Joe Milton develops 2-3 years from now, he'll be a good backup, but he won't be a franchise quarterback in this league. We get so enamored by potential. We get so enamored by elite traits that we overlook there is more to being a good quarterback than just how hard and how far you can throw a football, how fast you can run. You got to have the intangibles. You got to have good footwork. You got to have good decision making. Joe Milton lacks in both of those categories. You cannot develop a quarterback from scratch. You need to have a good baseline to work with. You got to have a good foundation. When you build a house, you just don't build a house from nothing. First, you have to lay down the foundation for what the house is going to be built on. And if you have a weak foundation, then you're going to have a crappy house. If you have a weak foundation as a quarterback, bad footwork, bad decision making, you're going to be a bad quarterback in this league. Athleticism only gets you far when you're in high school and college. Once you get to the pros, athleticism doesn't mean much if you don't have the intangibles down pat. Jerry Jones has wasted 2 mid-round selections trying to kick the tires on rehabilitation projects at quarterback. A few years ago, he gave up a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. And Trey Lance isn't even on the Cowboys roster anymore. Then he gives up a 5th-round pick for Joe Milton. Now, you may think, oh, JT, 4th and 5th round picks aren't anything. They're just mid-round selections. The majority of NFL rosters are comprised of mid-round picks. Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick. DeRon Bland was a 5th-round pick. 4th and 5th rounders could end up being high-level starters depending on the team. And essentially, Jerry Jones threw away 2 potential starters for the Cowboys, trading for Trey Lance and Joe Milton, trying to rehabilitate quarterbacks that don't have the ability to really be rehabilitated into franchise quarterbacks. Dak Prescott, I know he's laughing at Jerry Jones right now because every time Joe Milton was making a mistake, he'll go up to him on the sidelines. He'll try to, talk him through what went wrong, what he needs to do better, just for Joe Milton to go back out there and do the same thing that Dak Prescott was just trying to teach him not to do. Jerry Jones is so far gone, it's comedy at this point. The Cowboys have so many bigger needs that they had to address this offseason than trying to find Dak Prescott's successor. You needed another running back. You need you a wide receiver 3. You could use a little bit more depth on the defensive line, a little bit more depth in the secondary, but instead you throw what could have been a useful pick to improve one of your areas of needs on the Joe Milton experiment. I have a friend of mine that actually saw Joe Milton throw in person a few years ago at a Rivals camp. And he said that he would have paid money to watch Joe Milton throw the ball because watching Joe Milton throw is a spectacle. Anytime he throws a deep ball, it's a spectacle to behold because he has one of the prettiest deep balls that I've ever seen. But that's all that he has the ability to do. Throw the ball deep. He can't do anything else. Most of the time when you're playing quarterback, you're not chugging deep balls all day long. You're not throwing Hail Marys on every play. You got to throw 5, 10-yard passes with accuracy. You got to be able to take what the defense gives you. Joe Milton can't even take advantage of what the defense is giving him. The defense is allowing him to get the layups because he can't hit the layups. This is another reclamation project, another rehab project that has blown up in Jerry Jones and the Cowboys' faces. There are concerns about the New York Jets offense and how effective they will be with Justin Fields in at quarterback. Throughout training camp, the reports about Justin Fields have been mixed. He's had some good days. He's had some really bad days. And there was a point during training camp for the Jets when Justin Fields was completing 38% of his passes, which is not ideal for what you want out of your projected starting quarterback. And during his first 2 preseason games, the passing still has been less to be desired. Here's the thing with the New York Jets passing offense and why I'm not too concerned about Justin Fields' limitations as a passer as far as being on the Jets is concerned. Justin Fields is never going to be a great passer. You don't need to be a great passer to win games in the NFL. You just need to be average to slightly above average throwing the ball to be an effective quarterback. We know that Justin Fields' game is predicated off running the football. And contrary to popular belief, yes, the NFL is a passing league. You got to throw the ball to win, but having a good run game is just as important. The Jets' identity is not about Justin Fields airing the football out 30, 40 times a game. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He is not Josh Allen. The identity that the Jets want to have on offense is running the football at will, and that's what Justin Fields at quarterback is going to allow them to do. They're going to be able to utilize him on design quarterback runs, read options, RPOs. You got Breece Hall and Braylon Allen in the backfield behind him at running back. The Jets want to run the football 30, 40 times a game, lean on their defense, and control the time of possession battle, which involves Justin Fields only throwing the ball no more than 23 times per game. The Jets are going to be near the bottom in the league in pass attempts per game. Their new offensive coordinator comes from the Jim Harbaugh coaching tree. Jim Harbaugh is all about smash mouth football. He's not about throwing the football all over the field, and that's what I expect the Jets offense to be this year with Justin Fields and that quarterback. Justin Fields is a good enough passer that he can make the necessary throws when need be. He's not always going to have the cleanest performances throwing the football. He's going to have a few games where he has a nasty 13-24 stat line, 106 yards. It's not going to be pretty all the time with Justin Fields. Justin Fields is living off splash plays at this point in his career with the hope that those splash plays can turn into consistency. And hopefully the Jets can find a way to get consistency out of Justin Fields more as a passer. But for now, they're going to be relying on his legs to win. And you can win games in the NFL with a scrambling quarterback like Justin Fields when you have 3 former first-round picks on the offensive line. You got 2 really good running backs, and you're going to have a great defense. So all you need Justin Fields to do is take care of the football, which is something that he's done throughout training camp. We haven't seen him have any turnover mishaps in the preseason so far. The Jets don't need to be an explosive passing attack to win. They have a good enough ground game, a good enough offensive line that they can just maul you to oblivion. Justin Fields, a few years ago, ran for over 1,100 rushing yards, which was the second most rushing yards in a single season by a quarterback. Only Lamar has ran for more rushing yards in the season than Justin Fields. Justin Fields is the definition of a dual threat quarterback, or more so the definition of a scrambling quarterback, because you're more fearful of what he does running the ball than what he does throwing the football. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can still win with a quarterback that has the skill set like a Justin Fields by prioritizing the ground game. There are plenty of teams that have gone back to running the football. The Philadelphia Eagles don't throw the ball a lot. The Ravens don't throw the ball a lot. They are run-first teams that have the ability to throw when need be. And Justin Fields, I feel, is one of those quarterbacks that if you're only asking him to throw the football a limited amount of times, he'll be effective with those opportunities. But the more you ask Justin Fields to do as a passer, the less effective he's going to become, because then you're asking him to be something that he's not. He's not a volume passer. He is a low volume passer. 23, 24 attempts per game is more than enough for Justin Fields to win you games, because the more you ask him to throw, the more you expose his limitations. Good coaches build around the strength of their players. The Jets offense is going to be solely built off Justin Fields' mobility. You can win games running the rock 45, 40 times per game when you have Justin Fields that can run for over 1,100 yards in the season and two monstrous running backs. I'm not worried too much about Justin Fields up and down preseason, up and down training camp, because the identity of the Jets offense this year is going to be running the football. If they can't run the football, they're going to be screwed. But there aren't too many teams that are going to be able to slow down their rushing attack with what they have on the line of scrimmage, what they have at running back, and what you get from Justin Fields when he runs the football. I don't want the Titans to allow Van Jefferson to have any more opportunities to drop any more perfect dimes from Cam Ward. Van Jefferson should not be starting at wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans this year. Alik Eiermanner, a.k.a. the Travis Hunter Destroyer, should be the Titans wide receiver 2 alongside of Calvin Ridley. Alik Eiermanner, Cam Ward has had a really good connection with him throughout mini camp and training camp. He's been one of his most effective receivers when Cam Ward has targeted him. In the preseason, he's been really impressive as well when he's played with Cam Ward and when he's played with the other quarterbacks that the Titans have had in. He's been really impressive. He has good size, really good speed, and he's a really good contested catcher. Van Jefferson has been a veteran in the NFL for a few years now. Him dropping the pass that he dropped the other night is unacceptable. And my old football coach in high school used to tell me, it doesn't matter how bad the pass is. If it hits your hands, if it hits your fingertips, you better catch it. If you can't catch anything that hits the tip of your fingers, then you're playing the wrong position. You should be playing defensive backs. Those are the guys who make excuses for not being able to catch passes that hit their hands. Oops, my bad. I'll do it. I'll get it next time. Oh, my fault, bro. I got you next drive. No, there is no next drive with certain things. When the ball hits you in the fingertips, you need to catch it. Cam Ward couldn't have thrown a better ball than what he did to Van Jefferson. You can't be leaving money out on the field. And Cam Ward, being such the humble guy that he is, he took accountability for something that he had no business taking accountability for. The Titans need to put better receivers on the field for Cam Ward to throw the football to. Alik Eiermanner and Xavier Restrepo should be higher on the depth chart than Van Jefferson. Where has Xavier Restrepo been? Because I haven't heard his name called throughout the preseason. I haven't seen him in last week's preseason game or in this past week's preseason game for the Titans. Is he injured? Is he hurt? What's going on for Xavier Restrepo? This was Cam Ward's tag team partner last season at Miami. This is statistically the best receiver that Miami has ever had. They've had guys like Reggie Wayne, Andre Johnson play for that program, and Xavier Restrepo put up better numbers than what those guys did. What is the holdup with getting Cam Ward's buddy on the field? We need more Xavier Restrepo, Tennessee. I'm not a Tennessee Titans fan necessarily. I'm more so a Cam Ward fan because I'm a diehard Miami fan. So when the Titans drafted Cam Ward, I somewhat adopted Tennessee as my second or third favorite team in the NFL because I love Cam Ward. He's my favorite player ever, and I want him to succeed. And Cam Ward is being set up to fail if the Titans are going to allow guys like Van Jefferson to drop dimes that Cam Ward is delivering. The name of the game is limiting mistakes. It's not just all about fumbles and interceptions. It's also about receivers being able to catch the ball with their two hands. Catching the football has never been easier. With all of these gloves, it makes it nearly impossible to drop a pass. You should not be a veteran in the NFL dropping passes like what Van Jefferson just dropped the other night from Cam Ward. It's just inexcusable. The Titans need to get some better wideouts out there, man. We can't have the Titans losing games because they're letting guys like Van Jefferson drop easy dimes from Cam Ward. What if it comes down to 2-3 plays during the regular season? Cam Ward finds an open Van Jefferson and he ends up dropping them. Drops can end up costing you possessions, points, and wins. We need to limit mistakes. Get Van Jefferson the hell off the field with Cam Ward. Have him running with the second and third string quarterbacks, whoever they may be. Elite Ironmaner should be the Titans wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 3 should be Xavier Restrepo. Don't allow Van Jefferson to drop any more Cam Ward dimes. I'm trying my best to be as optimistic as possible about the Carolina Panthers defense, but from what I've seen in these first 2 preseason games, I don't have a lot to be optimistic about when it comes to how this defense is going to play when the regular season kicks off. This was one of the worst defenses in NFL history last year. And yeah, they signed a bunch of guys free agency. They threw a bunch of draft picks at the defense, and yet CJ Stroud and the Texans' first string offense is going up and down the field on their opening possession with ease. The defense didn't give them any resistance at all. Against the Browns, when they had Shedeur Sanders in at quarterback, they had multiple starters on defense in, and Shedeur was looking spectacular against this defense. A rookie quarterback was lighting Carolina's first string defense up. Carolina has a bunch of holes on this defense that they failed to address properly during this offseason, and they already are getting taken advantage of early during the preseason. I'm not even concerned about the offense. That's a topic for a different day. The defense needs to be a lot better than what they've been these first 2 weeks throughout the preseason. They say that the preseason doesn't count. It's not real football. Well, for the Carolina Panthers defense, with how bad they were last year, damn it, the preseason should matter to them. They should be playing every snap in the preseason on defense, full speed, full throttle, like it's a regular season game. Because how they looked in the preseason so far, it makes me really alarmed about how this defense is going to look this year. If the Panthers are going to have a shot at winning the NFC South, going up against high-powered offenses like the Buccaneers and the Falcons, their defense has to be a lot better. Linebacker hasn't looked that good. The defensive line, I'm not really seeing an improvement when it comes to the pass rush. Nick Scorton, who you spent a second-round pick on, he's going to miss a few weeks with the injury that he suffered. So you were banking on Nick Scorton to be a guy who could come in and give you instant impact as a rookie, and you're going to be without him. Now you're going to have somebody else that needs to step up. You got rid of Jadeveon Clowney. So outside of Derek Brown, where else is the pass rush going to come from on the Carolina Panthers defensive line? Not just is their defensive line a concern, but the secondary. Outside of J.C. Horn, you have nobody else at cornerback. Whoever else the Panthers have at cornerback 2, slot corner, whoever, there's no difference between those guys and me and you. You can put me and you out on that secondary, and we couldn't do anything worse than what the Panthers secondary is doing right now without J.C. Horn. I thought the Carolina Panthers should have been more aggressive in free agency going after the premier cornerbacks that were on the market. They should have went after Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey only has a $7 million cap hit or $5 million cap hit on the Steelers this year. They could have used him. He would have been a great piece to pair alongside of J.C. Horn. Your safeties, you have Trayvon Morek and Latham Ransom. They are run support guys. They are guys who are going to come down in the box and help out against the run, but they're not good against the pass. That's why Trayvon Moorick wasn't retained by the Raiders, because they wanted guys who are better in coverage. Passing the football is something that every team in the NFL is going to be able to do when they play the Carolina Panthers. It's going to be an all-you-can-eat buffet when you go up against this pass defense. The run defense looks much better, but as we know, it's a passing league. And if you don't have guys who can consistently pressure the quarterback, if you don't have corners who can hold up in coverage, your defense is going to get torched by every quarterback that they play. You can't win games 45-38 every single week. You can't win games asking Bryce Young to be Mr. Perfect, which is what the Carolina Panthers are essentially going to have to ask Bryce Young to do if they want to have a shot at competing for a spot in the playoffs. This defense sucks, and I'm tired of trying to be optimistic about it. I'm tired of listening to Panthers fans saying, you got to be more patient. Be more patient for what? It's the preseason. You're going up against second and third stringers. You went up against C.J. Stroud for one drive, and he was looking like Tom Brady and Joe Montana combined out there. Patience for what? This defense ain't doing nothing this year. And if you're a Panthers fan, leaving out hope that the defense will improve this year, you got to stop lying to yourself. Accept the truth, brother. Your defense might not be as bad as what it was last year, because last year is pretty doggone hard to replicate. But from what we've seen these first 2 weeks in the preseason, you can't be encouraged about this Panthers defense. The Raiders drafting Ashton Jeanty was absolutely the right pick. There's no blueprint to building a successful team in the NFL. There's this unwritten rule that you can't draft a running back in the top 10. You need to draft offensive linemen, pass rushers, quarterbacks high, because those are more important to winning in the NFL than having an elite running back. Having a great running back is a luxury. It's not a necessity. You couldn't be more wrong with that statement. Drafting Ashton Jeanty was the Raiders drafting an identity that helped Pete Carroll win the Super Bowl when he was the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. When you think about what made the Seattle Seahawks so great during the prime years of Pete Carroll, it wasn't all because of the Legion of Boom. It was also due to them having Marshawn Lynch beast mode in the backfield. Pete Carroll is an old school coach with a old school philosophy. He wants to play good defense and run the rock down your throat. Ashton Jeanty is one of the best running back prospects in the history of the NFL draft. This isn't just a running back. This is a weapon. This is somebody that's going to hold up and keep Geno Smith upright in third down situations. This is somebody that's going to be a weapon catching the ball out of the backfield for Geno Smith. This is another weapon that you pair alongside of Brock Bowers that makes your offense more threatening than what it was last year. The Raiders' biggest issue on offense last season was their inability to run the football and create explosive runs. They only had less than a dozen runs go for over 10 yards or more last season. That was dead last in the NFL in explosive runs. The Raiders needed Ashton Jeanty, because what Ashton Jeanty brings to the Raiders is what they've lacked on offense the past few years, which is an identity, a soul. Ashton Jeanty is going to be able to be that weapon that the Raiders rely on to carry the bulk load of the offense. Geno Smith, when he had some of his best years in Seattle with Pete Carroll, was when he was able to have a legit run game. He's one of the best play action passers in the NFL, so it's a necessity that you give Geno Smith an elite ground game, which is what the Raiders are going to get with the selection of Ashton Jeanty. Now, I know Ashton Jeanty's few reps in the preseason, these 2 weeks, haven't really been that impressive. He hasn't really done much. Against the 49ers, he looked much better than what he did in the Raiders' first preseason game. He ran the guy over. He scored a touchdown. But I don't think that the Raiders have fully showed us what Ashton Jeanty is about to do, because you can only judge somebody so much when they're getting such a limited amount of carries. Ashton Jeanty is one of those guys that wears you down over the course of a game. He's going to turn those 2 and 3 yard gains into 10, 15, 20, and 40-yard home runs as the game wears on. As you go throughout the first 3 quarters, you get worn down having to tackle Ashton Jeanty, because despite his small size, he's a locomotive when he runs that football. He doesn't go down off initial contact. It normally takes a crowd of people to bring down Ashton Jeanty. He is a lot bigger than what he looks like on paper. You know, on the side of the mirror in your car, it says objects in the mirror are closer than what they appear. Well, Ashton Jeanty is a lot more physical and a lot more tougher as a running back than what you may think a guy of his size has the ability to be. He reminds me a lot of Adrian Peterson, but with way better vision. Ashton Jeanty is going to have the greatest rookie season that we've ever seen a rookie running back have with the Raiders this season. The offensive line is nowhere as bad as what it was last season. They had numerous injuries. They got guys coming back healthy. You got Jackson Powers Johnson at center. That dude is a man human. He's not a man. He's a man human. I don't know how anybody's going to be able to slow down Jackson Powers Johnson from just pancaking every defensive tackle that he runs up against. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful, he moves exceptionally well. You still got Colton Miller at left tackle. This Raiders offensive line is going to look way better than what they did last season, which is going to allow Ashton Jeanty to have a lot of success during his rookie season. And even then, Ashton Jeanty doesn't need to have the best offensive line in the NFL to still put up productive numbers. He's one of those guys that makes people miss at the line of scrimmage. Rather, if it's him trucking through a guy, putting a spin or a juke move on somebody, Ashton Jeanty is just hard to bring down. He's the full package at running back. He has a great blend of speed and power. He can beat you with elusiveness, or he can finish you running through you with power. And you couple that with good pass blocking and reliable hands, the Raiders didn't draft just a running back with the 6th overall pick. They drafted a weapon. They drafted an identity. They drafted a soul to their team. Pete Carroll, he's giving you better coaching. He's building up a better culture. But the identity of what the Raiders are going to be this year relies solely on Ashton Jeanty. When Ashton Jeanty is having success, Geno Smith is going to have success. When Geno Smith is having success, everybody on this offense is going to have success, along with the rest of the team, because when you have good quarterback play, you have efficient offense, which keeps your defense off the field so they don't have to play more plays than what they should, and they don't get worn out. They don't get tired as quickly. You can keep guys fresher for a lot more longer throughout the course of a game. Ashton Jeanty was the sole pick that the Raiders needed. And to me, he was the second best player in this draft behind Travis Hunter. This was a really weak draft class. You didn't have a bunch of great tackles, a bunch of game-changing edge rushers. There was no Myles Garrett or Michael Parsons in this draft. So the Raiders did what was the best decision to make, draft best player available in Ashton Jeanty. You can never go wrong going BPA. There's no blueprint to building a winning team. There's a bunch of different ways to construct a good team. It doesn't involve always having to invest high draft picks into an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. The Bengals showed us all when they took Jamar Chase in the first round over Penei Sewell that you don't always gotta have great offensive line play. You don't always have to select the edge rusher or a pass rusher to have a championship team. When they drafted Jamar Chase, a lot of people felt it was the wrong decision to make because you got to prioritize it. You got to prioritize protecting your star quarterback. How good can Jamar Chase be if Joe Burrow doesn't have time to throw him the football? Well, Jamar Chase has been pretty freaking good. Despite the Bengals not having a good offensive line, Joe Burrow still went to a Super Bowl in spite of it. So the Bengals showed us with their selection of Jamar Chase that there is more than just one way to building a championship team. They drafted Jamar over Penei Sewell and went to the Super Bowl as soon as they made that selection. So I'm just saying, Ashton Jeanty may not be the right pick in terms of where you normally would draft a running back, but in the Raiders situation, it was the pick that they needed to bring a soul to a offense that hasn't had a soul in the last couple of years. The Atlanta Falcons are not playing Michael Penix at all this preseason, which is a really questionable decision for Raheem Morris to make. I'm not saying that Michael Penix was bad. I thought he was really impressive in his first 3 starts in the NFL last year, but he hasn't proven enough to warrant not getting any action in the preseason. You don't want him to get injured. That's understandable, but you at least want Michael Penix out there for at least 1 or 2 drives. Joe Burrow has played a few drives in the preseason. CJ Stroud has played a few drives in the preseason. The preseason helps you get out to a faster start when the regular season begins, because it's a difference between going up against people in practice versus going up against people simulating an in-game environment. When you're in these preseason games, yeah, they're not full speed. The game is going to be much more ramped up once week 1 gets here for Michael Penix, but at least it allows him to get broken in. When you have a young quarterback that's entering his 2nd season with less than 5 starts under his belt, you want to give him as much experience as possible. Michael Penix hasn't played a lot of NFL football. He barely played in the preseason last year. Remember, he played in that one preseason game where he looked really good, and Raheem Morris and the Falcons coaching staff shut him down. They said that he had nothing else to prove. It's not about how much you have to prove. The preseason isn't really about proving yourself if you already have been locked in as a starting quarterback. It's about getting yourself into a rhythm so when the season starts, you don't end up being rusty. You don't end up having games that you often see quarterbacks have week 1 when they go 7 of 24, 90 passing yards. You know, sometimes even the best quarterbacks in the NFL can have really sloppy starts to the NFL season because they haven't played a lot in the preseason. If you're somebody like Lamar or Patrick Mahomes, yeah, you don't need to play in the preseason because you've already shown us enough based off your body of work these past 3-4 years. Michael Penix, with him being so young in the NFL, he needs more developmental time. He needs more time to fully grasp NFL speed. And as I said earlier, the preseason isn't the exact game that you see played when the regular season starts is more sped up. It's a lot faster. The time you have to make a decision is a lot quicker in the regular season than what it is in the preseason. Nobody's revealing their defense. Nobody's really running anything on offense that they would run during the regular season. All that's understandable. But the preseason is just to ease you back into football as a player. You know, get used to guys trying to knock your helmet off your shoulder. Get guys used to getting tackled. Michael Penix hasn't been tackled. When you wear that red jersey, tackling the quarterback is a crime. It's one of the biggest sins that you can commit in football. So, Raheem Morris, I understand not wanting to get Michael Penix injured, but you can at least give him a few drives to kind of break him in a little bit. And now without any preseason action, we could see Michael Penix struggle for the first 3-4 weeks of the year. And then once you get to week 5, week 6, that's when he starts to get in his groove. That's when he starts to find his rhythm. But what if you lose 2-3 games due to Michael Penix getting out to a slow start with you refusing to play him in the preseason? Those 2-3 losses that you could suffer with Michael Penix having a slow start could be the difference between you winning and losing this division or possibly making it to the playoffs. The decision by Raheem Morris not to play Michael Penix in the preseason at all is really questionable to me. And not only is he not playing Michael Penix in the preseason, but he's not playing Kirk Cousins either, which that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He's a backup quarterback. He's getting paid over 100 M's. He should be getting as much money as possible, along with being on the field as much as possible to earn that paycheck, even if it is him playing in the preseason. What does Kirk Cousins get from playing in the preseason? I mean, you keep him warmed up. Same thing for Michael Penix goes for Kirk Cousins. Worst case scenario, let's say Michael Penix gets a concussion and he has to miss 2-3 games. You need Kirk Cousins warmed up. You need him broken in. And if he's going this long without any meaningful in-game action, albeit if it is in the preseason, then he could come out rusty. You just want to keep guys warm. That's why you played them in the preseason. You know why they tell you to stretch? They tell you to stretch so you avoid getting injured when you're working out. They tell you to do a warm-up so it makes you getting into your lift, getting into your exercises a lot easier. That's what the preseason is. It's a bona fide warm-up for the regular season. And the Falcons are not giving their quarterbacks that warm-up.